Welcome to Cardinals Cover 2 with Grialou and Mike Jurecki. Cardinals Cover 2 is brought to you by Arizona Cardinals Podcasts. Visit azcardinals.com/podcasts. From the Dignity Health Arizona Cardinals Training Center, here's Grialou and Mike Jurecki.
So I don't know if you noticed this on Tuesday, but the NBA held its draft lottery. Big deal. A lot of discussion, a lot of disappointment around the entire league on who got number one and who did not get number one. Congratulations, by the way, to New Orleans.
Yeah, I mean, you got to give Dave Griffin, the new GM, who obviously worked in Phoenix, great guy, and also Alvin Gentry. Curious to see how it plays out.
Well, the NFL kind of did its own little draft lottery, and this is the Twitter account at NFL Research. The 2019 NFL draft order using the NBA draft lottery slots. Jaguars picking number one, followed by the Bills, and then the Cardinals at number 3.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Yeah, you don't like that either?
No.
You know, you didn't want Quinton Williams? You're happy with
No,
Kyler Murray?
I don't think you could have gone wrong with all three. Yeah, but I'll stick to the
Stick
NFL.
with this?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's no tanking in the NFL.
There was an interesting blog post on Pro Football Talk about that because just the amount of attention that this draft lottery receives and in all the buzz following it, that perhaps maybe the NFL could look into doing something similar. The conclusion was no, just keep it the same because, you know, as you said, you can't get 53 guys to sit there and say, oh, we're not playing for a win on a Sunday and let's just play a bunch of young guys. You only have 47 dress, so
Six, yeah.
46 dress, so
Yeah.
you can't sit there and quote-unquote rest guys or load management as the NBA terms it.
Well, it's so different. The NBA contracts are guaranteed. The NFL average career for a guy is 3.5 years. You're not taking plays off. You may be playing as an individual and maybe playing not to get hurt, but if your team is struggling and normally you bring in a new head coach, the first thing they look at is the previous season. Were you freelancing here? What were you doing on this play? So, we see teams when they get to week 17 that have clinched a playoff spot, they rest players, and it's risky. The Colts did it a few years ago when a long time ago when Peyton Manning's there. So and they changed the draft rules here, and the Knicks and Cavaliers and the Suns had the best options, and here they didn't have the top 2 picks. So I like the way the NFL does it.
Yes, absolutely. Just go in reverse order on how you finished the regular season, and that is how you determine who drafts number 1 overall.
Exactly, and hopefully the Cardinals are not in this spot again because that means you're not winning football games, and that's the whole idea of putting together a really good draft, and they've done it back-to-back years.
Absolutely. All right, on this Wednesday, let's take off and let you know what's ahead on the show here this afternoon. What did Kliff Kingsbury tell the rookies before they hit the field for the first time as NFL players? We take you behind the scenes, just exactly how did the Cardinals end up with Andy Isabella. Speaking of the UMass wide receiver, he lets us know what his favorite routes are and how that might play a factor this season. And, of course, your questions via social media using the hashtag CardsCover2, hashtag CardsCover2, using the number 2 to get involved in the show. We do it every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, but that's a little bit later on. First things first, the news of the day. And this is big. In fact, I am so excited about this news because we finally know what to call Adrian Wilson. MJ, he has a title. Director of Pro Scouting.
Congratulations. Well-deserved. He's, moving up the ladder, and I know he's excited about this opportunity. But, yeah, what didn't a BA give him the
Vice President of Stuff.
So now he's got a –
He didn't like that.
No, and he told me that a lot of times when he was on the road, other scouts would say, "Where's your business card? I want to contact you." And he would give him the business card that just said Scout. Did you get a business card on your desk the other day?
Yes, he dropped off. Apparently, he just kind of like crop dusted the entire 3rd floor and everyone else, and now he's got brand new business card. Director, Pro Scouting.
Yeah, and I only have one business card in my wallet right now, and it's A-Dub. I told him I'd have your cell phone. I know where your office is now. He actually moved his office. So I said, I'll track you down. When's he coming on the show?
I don't know. I asked him to sign the business card. He told me to get away.
He said he doesn't sign autographs anymore.
By the way, A-Dub was simply just known as Scout, and we just never really knew what to call him here and reference him when we actually did have audio or video of him, and it's it's nice to actually put a title in front of his name because, one, it's as much as we make light of it, it is very well deserving because he puts in a lot of hard work, a lot of hours leading up to the draft, and he has done that since he was brought back in, as far as brought back in by the organization.
Yeah, and this normally happens after the draft. We know the Raiders sent their scouts home because they're going to fire every single guy, and not only Adrian Wilson, and I know you have the list of the names getting promotions, and it's nice to see Quinton Harris and Drew Grigson and Josh Scobie. He was a West Coast scout, basically the Pac-12 conference. He's got a promotion. So nice to see these guys, former players who played for the Cardinals, get an opportunity in the scouting department, and they're still close to the game. So you can go ahead and give us the names, but congratulations to a lot of these guys that have put the work in, and now they're being rewarded for it.
Yeah, there were a total of 6 promotions announced within the team's scouting department. Quinton Harris, by the way, I got to mention, Syracuse class of 2001. He is now the director of player personnel, had been the director of pro scouting. Again, that's the title, that's the job responsibility now of A-Dub. Drew Grigson, the past 6 years as director of college scouting, promoted to assistant director of player personnel. Chris Colmer is the new director of college scouting. And as you mentioned, MJ Josh Scobie moves to the Western Regional Scout. And again, Wilson, Harris, and Scobie, all former Cardinals players. And if you don't get into coaching or broadcasting, you'll see some former players try to get into the front office aspect first at the scout level and then try to work their way up. It is a lot of work. Sometimes it's a thankless job. You don't see your family a lot. You're on the road talking to different people, different players, and try to write up as much information as you can because, as we heard Steve Keim talk about it a lot before every draft, that is the lifeline of your football team, is making sure you're picking the right guys, not only in the draft, but also the undrafted free agents as well.
Yeah, and Adrian, he really, wanted to still do a little college scouting, but, some guys like Larry Fitzgerald, I don't ever see him being a coach, maybe for his kids, I wouldn't say lacrosse team, but maybe just coaching his kid or being an observer and being a parent out there. They're putting just as many hours as coaches are, and they're on the road, like Drew Grigson and some of these other scouts are on the road almost 8 months a year. And so it's not, you're trying to move up the ladder and you see other guys get promotions. Malik Boyd was here with the Cardinals. He's in Buffalo, loving his job there. I got a chance to talk to him at the Combine. He's not crazy about the weather, but he thinks the Bills are heading in the right direction. So it's nice to see the guys because usually you get a job because of your name and your background. But when you get a job here, you have to grind. You have to watch tape, and you got to know what you're watching. Anyone can watch film, and I'm not great at it, but I'm trying to learn more what I'm looking for. So congratulations to those guys. And when you have, back-to-back good drafts, that tells me they're doing their job, and that's why some of these guys got promotions.
Yeah, and a lot of people very high on this 2019 draft class because there's a lot of people that believe, one, they got guys that were probably could have been drafted much earlier, so that's great value, and then two, can contribute right away, whether it's a starter or, as we've talked about, just being on the field as a rotation player.
Yeah, you can make the case 4 or 5 starters and then 4 at least rotation players. And last year, maybe they didn't get enough pub because they didn't mortgage the future, moving up to get Josh Rosen, but they only had 6 draft picks and only 5 made the team. Here, you could make a case all 11 are going to be in competition. I still think maybe 9 or 10 make it. So when you get 11 draft picks, that's the reason why they're getting a lot of accolades, and rightfully so.
The only downside on this whole thing, one, it might be more difficult to get A-Dub on this show for a first time, let alone a second or third time. And then two, we should have gotten a heads up on this and actually kind of put it within the new contract, if there was a contract that A-Dub signed, it said, did you read the fine print?
Yeah, I like the way you're thinking. I think there's one person we got to go to, and hopefully we can do that sooner rather than later.
All right, we'll work on that here on Cards Cover 2 because we got all kinds of time. I mean, the scouting part is over, right? I mean, he's done. He's on vacation, right?
No.
Oh,
no.
Oh, okay.
They only work for 3 days a year. Come on.
Jimmy said that. I didn't.
Yeah, well, I mean, technically they do. Well, they work longer,
yes.
but
no, it's only 3 days a year. Come on.
He's referring to Thursday, Friday, and Saturday.
Yeah, what a life.
They just wake up and give grades.
Yeah, just go here, Steve. Just, or you know what? Check out the mock drafts on these various sites and just say, yeah, that sounds right. Here you go.
And you know what I tell him? He doesn't fit our scheme. We're looking for players that fit the coaching and the scheme.
Well, congratulations to all of them. Adrian Wilson, of course, the Cardinals Ring of Honor member, now doing good things in the scouting department, the director of pro scouting. Also, the continuing on the field here in phase 2, the rookies and veterans on the field together. Next week is when OTAs begin, the organized team activities, and that's when the Cardinals will be able to go offense versus defense, 7-on-7, 11-on-11, no hitting, no contact or anything, but got 10 practices starting on Monday in which you can kind of get more of a sense of what this team might be able to do, because now it's just you're on air. It's one on none. It's 7-on-none. I mean, you're just running through drills, position drills, individual drills. But next week, Monday, it starts, and that is kind of be the real, I wouldn't say first indication, but that next step to say, okay, how do all 11 guys work as a unit offensively against not air, but some opposition, some obstacle, even though it is another Cardinals player.
Yeah, I mean, we could have, at least 4 or 5 new starters on offense, depending on the wide receiver shakes out. We know they got a couple new guys on the offensive line between J.R. Sweezy, and then you throw in Marcus Gilbert. You got a new tight end, at least 2 of them, Max Williams and Charles Clay. So, yeah, I mean, and the fact that the rookies were able to practice, whether it was on one field with just their unit, the fact is they are now practicing with veteran players, and I think that's really where Kyler Murray is going to excel and succeed. And I would put some of those other draft picks are counting on more on the defensive side of the ball. But obviously they got to figure out that wide receiver core, because, you only can dress 4 or 5 on game day. And if you're not starting, you're going to have to be a rotation player, or in this case, play on team. So, big ups to guys like Andy Isabella, Hakeem Butler, and then throw on Keyshawn Johnson and then Kevin White to go along with Larry Fitzgerald and Christian Kirk.
Last Friday was when the Cardinals rookies first took the field for the first time as NFL players, that 3-day rookie minicamp, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Kliff Kingsbury, yesterday on the Kingsbury Chronicle podcast, he was asked what the message that he delivered to those players before they hit the field.
Just more to make sure you're taking advantage of the opportunity, be in that playbook, studying your things. If you get a rep, make sure it's full speed, and you never know who you're impressing out here. It may not be for us, but coaches talk, and we could call another organization, and it could work for you there. And so it was mainly just about making sure we're making the most of this opportunity.
We'll get to Murray, I'm sure, a little bit later. But for you, besides him, who stood out to you most amongst the rookies?
Yeah, I think collectively it was just the hard work, the effort, the focus. It was good to see it. As a class as a whole, we felt like we signed a bunch of high-character young men, and that's what you saw out there. Very conscientious, taking notes, studying it, learning their things. They're able to transition it from the classroom into the practice field, and so that's exciting for our coaching staff to see how important it was for those guys.
Coach, with Lisa Matthews and Paul Calvisi, the Kingsbury Chronicle podcast airs every other Tuesday, 3 p.m. on Facebook. And that's the big thing, that first answer he gave as far as the opportunity. Even if it's just a single rep, make sure you make the most out of that rep, because if it's not on this 90-man roster, and then ultimately you want to be on that 53-man roster, coaches talk. Hey, you know what? And if they really like you, and if they have to let you go because it's a numbers game, I've heard it where you sit there and go, you know what? I think you'll be a great fit at that team, X team over there. I've got a buddy over there. Let me make a phone call or 2 for you to see if you can't land somewhere else, to make sure that this is not the end of your NFL dream. Might be the end of your Cardinals career, at least for right now, but to continue and help you out down the road.
Yeah, I mean, that's all you can ask for is an opportunity, and really if you get 1 or 2 reps of practice, or in this case, when they're out there, it's really more mental, because you have to learn the playbook first. You got to know what route you're running, or in this case, what your assignments are, and a lot of it comes down to technique. So, hopefully they're picking things up in the classroom, and now they can go on the field. And it's going to be a work in progress. I don't care who you are, if you've never had the playbook or you've never been in the NFL, and you may not get as many reps when the veterans are here. So that's something that obviously these guys are hoping for. And I think we're going to see a lot of these young guys in the preseason just to get them ready, because we know last year you were at sometimes with the second and third string guy at certain positions, and hopefully that doesn't happen this year at all your top spots, including the offensive line, the quarterback position, and some of your 5-star players.
They might not be getting as many reps now that they are joining forces with the veterans, but they are here a lot longer than the veterans.
Yes.
There's more meeting time. There's more walkthrough time. There's extra time as far as strength and conditioning. So they are getting that benefit. It's just might not be on field reps, at least with the entire group together. But it is all about not just on field, but what you do and what you learn in the classroom as well.
Well, and not only that, Anthony Edwards, former Cardinals, he obviously has classes, whether it's off the field stuff, financial stuff. So
Rookie development,
yeah, they want you to know when you leave this facility, you represent the Arizona Cardinals. You're going to have a lot of people, depending on where you were drafted, it's going to try to invest money with them. You got to be careful there. So, yes, their job is to play football, but also they want to make sure these guys aren't loose when they leave the facility, or they're not financially investing in something that maybe is not the return you're looking for down the road.
And for those watching us right now here on Cards Cover 2, that is right there, the picture, the 11-member 2019 Arizona Cardinals draft class following the 3-day rookie minicamp with number 1, obviously Kyler Murray, front and center.
Yeah, and those guys are going to be attached for life. Usually when you come in with a class, you're attached and you spend so much time. I mean, these guys can be here from 8 to 10 hours a day. We're veterans. There's rules for them, 4 to 6 hours different on the different phase. You know, I'm not saying the Cardinals are going to the Super Bowl this year, but there's going to be one rookie class that's going to go to the Super Bowl. Well, 2 playing in that game, and I just don't know what they are right now. But the fact they had 11 picks, I'm encouraged that we're going to see a lot of these guys for the next few years.
Well, the hope is that if it's not this year, 2019,
Yes.
that this is the foundation, the building block, if you will, that people can point to, much like people point to 2004's draft class that led the Cardinals to the Super Bowl, that, hey, remember 2018, 2019, back-to-back drafts, maybe not all starters, but certainly contributors that now, hey, here we are, 3, 4, 10 years later or whatever, and look where we are now.
Yeah, and they had 4 guys we always talk about: Fitz, Dansby in the second round, Dockett in the third round, and Antonio Smith. Here you got 11 options, and you look at this, the top of the picks. Kyler Murray's the franchise quarterback. He's going to be here for a long time. Byron Murphy wouldn't surprise me if he's one of the starting corners like 2 or 3 years from now. He's going to be the slot corner, and then you throw in these wide receivers. So we look at that class, and they had 4, and they were all 5-star players. Here, you're hoping to get 5-star players, and I could see this class having more of an impact, but we need to let it play out over a 3 or 4 year span.
More from Kingsbury. We had asked the question, and now we have the answer. Just how much did the coach and the coaching staff throw out at these, as far as information, throw at these rookies during the minicamp?
For that rookie camp, you want to simplify things enough to where you can see guys at their best. You don't want to paralyze them by having them think too much or not know what they're doing out there. So we try to simplify it and let those guys go out there and play a little bit and see who stood out and evaluate from there.
And, of course, as we heard from Kyler Murray on Friday, much of what was thrown at him offensively somewhat familiar, because similar concepts in which he ran not only at Oklahoma but at the high school level as well. So that puts him a step or 2 ahead of everyone else, even some of the veterans, I would think, too.
Oh, yeah. I mean, these guys are all, for veteran guys, you're learning a brand new playbook. And obviously they had a difficult and complex and confusing playbook last year. And so, yeah, it's one of those scenarios where once you learn it, you're going to be able to play a lot faster. But I do think the fact that Kliff's been recruiting this guy since he was 15, and they played, you look at Texas Tech's offense compared to Oklahoma, and even at Texas A&M, where Christian Kirk only played 4 games with Murray. I think that's what we're going to see. Now, there'll be RPO concepts and a little bit more pro football than college.
We are broadcasting here on this Wednesday afternoon from the Dignity Health Arizona Cardinals Training Center, and doing so in our Bose QC35s. Go to Bose.com for more information. And a reminder, if you ever miss a show here, you can download as a podcast via Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play Music, TuneIn, and SoundCloud. And don't forget, all of your favorite Cardinals podcasts can be found at azcardinals.com/podcast. Tickets are also available as well. Don't forget the Week 1 season opener against Detroit right around the corner. azcardinals.com/tickets to get all of your information about single game and season tickets as well for 2019. All right, our main topic here this afternoon is talking about one of those Cardinal rookie wide receivers, Andy Isabella, the 62nd overall selection, the Cardinals' second of 2 second-round draft picks, a pick that was acquired from the Dolphins as part of the Josh Rosen trade. How did the deal go down, though? It was explained in the newest episode of Cardinals Flight Plan.
I'm guessing if we stay tight, it's going to be, you're looking at Isabella.
That'd be unbelievable.
Isabella, 1,700 yards receiving this year. Last year, 1,000. Year before, 900.
Ran 4.3. Good route runner.
4.3. Senior Bowl A.
Yeah, he's a little beast.
Hey, Chris. Hold on 1 second. If you do this, you could probably get, well, you definitely could get Isabella and Butler.
That's what I'm thinking.
We also, if we maintain our 4th, honestly, we could take even potentially 2. We have 2 first-round grades on these defensive linemen.
Yeah.
I mean, quite frankly, those guys are like, they come in and help us right now. That kid from Boston College is unbelievable. They're on the clock right now. This is our last chance for the 2nd round. Our time's coming down. He said this is it. So,
Coach.
All right, man, I love it.
All right, we'll do it.
you got a deal, brother? Yep. Okay. Okay, brother. We appreciate you. And yep, 2 this year and then the 5 next year. You got it.
This is now confirmed. It is done. Arizona is now on the clock.
Isabella.
What's happening?
Steve Keim, Cardinals.
How's it going, Steve?
Ready to be a Cardinal?
Oh, yeah. I'm definitely ready. Can't wait.
You gonna make us proud, right?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Okay, man. We're picking right here at 62, and we're gonna select you. So.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I can't wait.
How about that?
I knew it. I knew you guys
I
were
know,
through.
man. I know. We've been.
I can't wait, man. I can't wait.
You got a lot of people in this building who think you're a fantastic player, man. You're a great person. Coming here, work your ass off. You know the offense is going to be special, and we can't wait to get you here, man. This is a big deal, dude. It all worked out. You are an absolute stud, and you're going to make us a much better team, man. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, here's Mr. Bidwell.
Andy, Michael Bidwell, how are you?
I'm great. Never been better.
Well, congrats. We're excited to have you be a Cardinal. Coach is fired up over here. So
I'm fired up. I can't wait.
Congratulations, Andy. Look forward to seeing you.
Thanks.
All right, take care.
I can't wait. Thanks.
Okay, guys. Is it in? It's in. Pick's in.
Some great exclusive access inside the Cardinals draft room, literally right in front of General Manager Steve Keim having the discussion with Team President Michael Bidwell. And we always talk about Cardinal decisions. When you want your power brokers to be on the same page, calling over Kingsbury and say, hey, what do you think? And he was the tipping point. Kingsbury, I love Isabella. He's a beast. And then all of a sudden, you say, all right, you call the Dolphins, deal's done, let's do it. And then you get Isabella on the phone, and he's an Arizona Cardinal.
Well, one thing I like about Steve Keim, he was already looking ahead, knowing if we get an extra second-round pick for the Rosen trade, you're going to be picking, what, 40, was it 45 and 48? Or the trade was, the 40, it was Miami had.
Oh, yes.
Miami
yes.
had, right. Make a long story short, he was already looking at Hakeem Butler and Zach Allen. So they felt pretty good about their board, and guys were falling to them that had high grades on. So that the fact that they were looking ahead, obviously you could see the excitement in Kliff Kingsbury. I think he was relieved when the Murray pick was. Maybe he didn't show as much emotion, but you could see that he fits exactly what they want to do in this Cardinal offense.
And make no mistake about it, that was Kingsbury's biggest reaction that we have seen is the selection of Andy Isabella. He was asked about it on Friday night, and he said, I also liked our number 1 pick overall as well. But I think that was something that they had known for a while, and it was, okay, it's now off our shoulders. We can keep going with the rest of the draft. But a fist bump, several claps, and then he let out the woo, and we've got Andy Isabella. And you could just see hit by his reaction, all of a sudden, okay, I've got my quarterback, and now I've got my wide receiver that I believe, with what we want to do offensively, can really, really make some noise immediately, not in week 8 or next year, but week 1 against Detroit, because I can call this play, I can call this play, I can call this formation, and Isabella can go downfield or get him across the middle of the field. I think all that was kind of turning in his mind as that entire process was going.
Well, I mean, it's interesting because Michael has the same information as those guys, but he's not scouting players. He watches film. The story when Steve was on with Doug and Wolf about Hakeem Butler, Michael didn't know a lot about him at the combine. He started watching film, and he said, we should consider that guy. And Steve was being facetious. He said, well, if he doesn't work out, that's on Michael. But the fact is that Kliff, obviously, he was hired because of innovative when it comes to calling plays and offense, and so he fits what they're looking for. And along with Kareem Butler and Keyshawn Johnson, and then you throw in Kirk and Larry Fitzgerald. So, you look back at last year's wide receiver core, there was a huge drop-off once Kirk went down and Larry and Ricky Seals-Jones as a tight end didn't have the year. So they feel much more confident and comfortable with where they are with the numbers there at that position.
Are we going to ignore the fact that Craig just sounded like Ric Flair as opposed to woo? Right?
Yeah. That wasn't bad.
It's hard because
you got to put a little oomph into it. You want to try it again?
No, not really. Woo! Once enough. See what you have to
Next
do.
Next time you do that, give me a heads up so I can take my headphones off.
All you have to do is just remember one thing. Whatever is said on any Cardinals platform, video, audio, Jim 100 records everything. So my guess is that at some point that's going to be played back somewhere.
What other show do you host on game day? NFL kickoff show.
Yeah,
that might show up there.
That's like a 4-hour show,
post-game,
so there'll be plenty of time to break
all
down.
those kind of drops in. And I'll say this, Ohms, he saves everything.
I know.
Like literally everything.
Yeah.
Every show, every soundbite, every interview, going back, not just seasons. I'm talking about decades.
Listen, I've covered the team 25 years. He grew up with Cardinal Red. He is the encyclopedia when it comes to this franchise.
I have the audio from when we sent Jurecki into the black hole in Oakland one time, and honestly, I was shocked that there were I think we're on a slight delay, so I was confident, like, okay, if they use salty language and we can dump out of that. But the guy came.
I got lucky.
Oh, man, it was great.
Because, I mean, there's first of all, guys were dressed up, and rightfully so. They lawyers during the week, and then they wear this different costume. And this guy was actually knowledgeable. He was cool with it. He wasn't, gonna mock me because I was trying to needle him a little bit. I think it was Mark Trestman was there. He's maybe the OC, but yeah, we got lucky with the guy, and he did not swear.
Well, what we'll do is when we play the Oakland Raiders Week 3 of the preseason, we'll bust that out.
All right, fair enough.
We'll ISO you on camera so you can listen to yourself and react.
I was worried about it. Because you're in the black hole, I'm the opposing team. They have no clue who I am, nor do they care. It's just I picked one guy out, and I got lucky. That's all that matters, right?
Week 3, preseason.
It's going to be on ESPN. Murray versus the Raiders. We got Murray, and Gruden doesn't.
Yeah. That's
Woo! Sorry, Jimmy.
I mean, just my headphones.
You could turn it down.
Gonna blow out the.
I'm great. It's never been better.
Well, congrats. We're excited to have you.
That's excitement. I like that, though.
Again, hold on a second.
You'll be fine. Hey, you started it.
I know. But you just escalated it,
yeah,
that's all.
That's okay. We can just go to Kliff when we need that.
That's true, yeah. And we'll have to wait and see what the next episode of Cardinals Flight Plan brings us. May 23rd is when that debuts, and you can catch up on past episodes by going to azcardinals.com/flight plan. And we could see again in Flight Plan just how excited Kingsbury was to land Isabella. Here's more from Kingsbury, this time talking with Paul Calvisi and Lisa Matthews about the Cardinals rookie wide receiver.
With Andy, it's the blazing speed, small but very quick, fast as anybody on the field, straight ahead, and has played that slot and has a good feel for that. You get Hakeem outside, who I've seen in person for a number of years, big, physical, tough, can really go up and make that contested catch, was exciting as a young player. And then Keyshawn is one of the smoother route runners we felt was in the draft, and he's shown it so far. And so to have those 3 draft picks and allow them to kind of grow with the young quarterback all together, I think is going to be really good for everybody. And plus, they get to watch number 11 every day, which is like, I mean, that's one of the best things you can have ever as a wide receiver, especially a young player in this league.
Yeah, of course, number 11 referring to Larry Fitzgerald, Uncle Fitz, that we'll refer to him here, because in that wide receivers room, he's got countless knowledge and experience, and he's going to be looked at to be that other coach, if you will, to either put an arm around a guy and say, hey, this is how we do it, or this is how I do it. It's worked for me, obviously. But those 3 young wide receivers, led by Isabella, since he was the first chosen, these guys are all going to be connected, as you keep saying, about the entire draft class, but those 3 in particular, who stands out, who takes that next step?
And it could be different weeks based on matchups. I mean, I assume just where Isabella was drafted and Butler were drafted, and obviously they're excited with Keyshawn Johnson and his route running. I would think there's different games, different guys are going to get targeted, and Larry leads by example. And if you want to pick his brain, he's more than happy to help you, but he's not a rah-rah guy. He's more a guy that shows you how to practice and how to be a pro. And when you see him catch balls in practice and run to the end zone, it's contagious. If he's doing it, why wouldn't you want to do it?
Absolutely, because you can't learn from anyone better, not only within the Cardinals, but anyone at the wide receiver position in the NFL.
Well, and if we add up the years that these guys have been in the league, besides the rookie class, Christian Kirk, a couple years, Kevin White, 3 years. I mean, I don't want to talk about the touches, targets, and receptions, and touchdowns, but 16 years. It doesn't. These guys. I mean, like I said, if he wants any of these guys to babysit for him, they should. I'm serious.
Fitz, baby, or
no?
Oh, the other way.
Yeah. I mean,
okay.
I mean, just think about the experience. I mean, we can take all their stats, maybe not in college because they're inflated, but if you take the years and stats of the guys on the roster right now, they don't even equal half of what he's accomplished.
Maybe 4 seasons, if that.
Yeah, if that.
Yeah.
And Kevin White, just unfortunately, he was hurt in Chicago, but he's got at least 3 years experience.
Yeah, and then of course you throw in the experience of Jerry Sullivan helping out David Rye, now I'm really, I don't want to say get too far ahead of myself, but I'm just really excited about the potential of what could happen with those wide receivers because of not only their individual talent, but just who's around them as well.
Yeah, and I always say if you can't learn from Jerry Sullivan, that's on you. And time is ticking when it comes to him being around. I think once the season starts, he's going to be here for all the off-season workouts, going to be here for training camp, and then he'll probably go back and enjoy retirement, and he'll obviously get ready for next off-season. So Larry swears by him, and Larry's been a big fan. Even when they're during the lockout year, Larry worked out with him. He brought some other receivers in around the National Football League. So this guy's a technician. He's worked with a lot of good receivers, including Tony Martin in San Diego at the time, Anquan Bolden, Larry Fitzgerald. So his pedigree speaks for itself, and you have to learn something, whether it's 30%, 50%, and everything's on film, so you can go back and critique yourself based on what Sullivan's trying to accomplish with these guys.
Back to Isabella last week. He joined Paul and Ron Wolfley on the Big Red Rage and was asked what he believes is going to be his biggest challenge jumping from college to the NFL.
Like I said in the press conference, I've always been like the underdog, and I've always had to prove people wrong, and I always had that huge chip on my shoulder. But now, as I come in the NFL, the roles are almost reversed. Is now everyone's looking at me, everyone's wants to know what I do and what I'm about. And I think it's just staying focused and continue to have that chip on my shoulder. And I think I still have a lot to prove. And even coming from a smaller school, I think a lot of people still think that even if with the production, it didn't really matter. So I think it's just staying focused and continue to wake up with a conscious effort to get better each day.
And that's a different dynamic for you, isn't it? You're used to being doubted, and there you have your head coach who's giving fist pumps in the air when your name is called in the war room. You have a lot of believers all of a sudden instead of doubters.
Yeah, absolutely. Now it's kind of flipped the script. Now I have to prove them right instead of proving everyone wrong. It's kind of I want to prove them right. So I'm going to definitely put in all the hard work. That I'm going to continue to work hard and prove them right this time instead of prove them wrong.
Andy, why do you think Coach was clenching his fist? Why do you think he was doing that? I mean, honestly, because he obviously sees you in this offense. Tell me why you think he was so jacked up. What do you bring to that offense?
I mean, I don't really like talking myself up. I like just going out there and showing it. But I think that's what he kind of maybe likes about me, is that my hard work and that I like to win. I'm a competitor. I don't like to lose. So I think I'm excited to start winning games with Kliff. So yeah.
Do you look at this offense and say, man, this has the potential to be a really good fit for me?
Oh, absolutely. Even the other players around me. I mean, there's so many good players on the roster, I think, especially in the receiver room now, and I'm excited to start training with them.
Okay, Andy, what kind of route runner are you, right? Because we can see you now, Paul. I mean, he's running a 4-3-1. By the way,
it's a 9 route, Wolf. That's all you need to know. It's just a go route.
By
That's
the way,
all you need to
Paul,
know.
he's got his degree in math, okay, and he runs a 4-3-1. Might be the fastest mathematician in the history of humankind.
Are you going to go to the 1,000th on that, by the way?
What kind of runner are you of routes?
Right when I got to UMass, I was actually a running back. So when they switched me to receiver, the only thing I could do was just run a 9 route. That's all I was good at.
See, I told you. Yeah.
Hey, Andy, you know when you're running a 4-3-1, just go,
Right.
kid.
That's what I just did,
Yeah.
and that's how I got my. That's how they unredshirted me. Is that I would go on the outside, and we had a cornerback that was pretty good. That he had a trial with the Green Bay Packers. He was a senior at the time, and I would just run by him, and the first time I think he was just messing around. He didn't think I was going to go hard on scout team,
right?
And I ran right by him, and then the second time he lines up in my face ready to go, and then I ran by him again, but the quarterback almost overthrew it, but I caught it, and he looks at me like he was like trying the hardest he's probably ever tried. He looks at me, he's like, "You caught that?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like you just see he was pissed off, like this kid ain't doing this again. He's probably never had a scout kid do that to him.
See, and that was my question in the press conference to Wolf jump me and usurp my question during the press conference. It was this. How often does your speed surprise defenders? How often does that happen in games?
I think at first maybe it does a little, but then they definitely tighten up. I think now as it gets to the higher level, everyone knows about it, so they're definitely going to be aware of it.
So I tell you to run a 2 route, a slant route, right? Are you comfortable with that?
Oh yeah.
Okay. What about the smash? Are you familiar with the smash concept?
Yeah.
Okay. So in other words, you're the outside guy. You go up 5 yards. You come right down the middle, right over. Are you okay with that?
Yeah, I've done that a lot too.
So how much did you read routes at UMass, or were they take routes?
Coach Whipple's offense was more it was the NFL style offense. He coached he was quarterbacks coach with the Steelers when they won the Super Bowl back in 2007. With Big Ben, and he always his playbook when it's similar to NFL styles offenses. Like when I was at the Senior Bowl with John Gruden, the whole offense, it was basically just learning Coach Whipp's offense again with just different names for positions and maybe just different names for concepts that Gruden had. But definitely, I mean, he had like Coach Whipp, he had definitely a lot of reading. Like you had to read the coverage. If it was cover 2, then you're running in the seam, and if it was maybe cover 1, you're running the corner out. So definitely, he did a great job of preparing me for this opportunity that I have.
We got Cardinals second-round pick Andy Isabella here in the Big Red Rage. And the fact the Cardinals traded Josh Rosen for the pick that wound up being you, is that daunting at all?
I don't really think about it like that. I don't really think about it like they pick me up to play. I'm not part of the front office or anything like that. I'm just they draft me to play. So I didn't really never really thought about it like that.
Is there anything that has you nervous here as you embark on your NFL career? Is there anything you're really Wolf played 10 years in the NFL? Anything you want to know? Anything maybe you're not comfortable?
That's right, Rook.
You know,
anything you want to know?
I mean, no, I'm serious. Maybe you're not comfortable asking the other guys, or is there something where you got a little anxiety about this certain aspect of the NFL? Maybe Patrick Peterson looming over out there, and instead of some DB from UMass. With all due apologies, he's one of the world's best. I don't know. Is there anything on your mind like that?
Yeah, one of my friends was joking around with me. He's like, you have to go against Patrick Peterson at practice. That's like every single day. I was like, crap, I didn't think about that.
Yeah. Think how much better that's going to make you, right?
Exactly. Like I'm excited to do that. Like I'm very excited to play against that competition. I think that's what I kind of live for.
I think training camp is going to be a lot of fun to watch, regardless, but it always is. But just for that simple reason right there, because we always kind of focus on the offense versus defensive line battles, the one-on-one pass rush drills. But now you throw in the wide receiver defensive back drills, Isabella, Patrick Peterson, Robert Alford, Byron Murphy, those kind of matchups. Just how fast, how quick off the line of scrimmage is Isabella. Those matchups are going to be fun to watch come July and August.
Yeah, and normally you'd be, when Tyrann Mathieu was here, he would draw that assignment sometimes when Larry was in the slot. The last few years, it's been Patrick Peterson. Larry will have a good day, and the next day Patrick would maybe get an interception. So, curious to see if he is the third wide receiver as he draw that assignment. Maybe he's going to play on side. So at some point he's going to get an opportunity to go against, between Peterson, Alford, and if he's in the slot, then it'd be Byron Murphy. And then, obviously he's going to have to deal with the secondary, DJ Swearinger and Budda Baker and possibly Thompson. So it'd be interesting. But, yeah, I mean, they're counting on him. I anticipate he's going to be active on game day along with Butler and Johnson, and we'll see how the other wide receivers shake out.
Well, you heard Wolf mention the different routes that are run in the NFL, and one of the routes that was brought up later in the interview was the jet sweeps, and Isabella said he had at least one of those a game in college called for him, and if it went well, then there would be maybe a second or a third. And I know you, MJ, have been looking at some research because that jet sweep, fly sweep, whatever you want to call it, when the wide receiver comes across and either is handed the ball or it's a quick toss before they get to the edge, outside edge of the tackle or tight end, that has become more prevalent, and the Cardinals, I think, will use it a lot, or at least tinker with it, at least see if it works. We only saw it a handful of times last season with J.J. Nelson, but you're utilizing the speed of the wide receiver, and then obviously, of course, can you make defenders miss and turn a short gain into a big gain?
Yeah, the only thing about J.J. Nelson, first of all, the exchange is the most important thing. You're right.
Yes.
Sometimes you can flip it to him because you're trying to change direction of the defense. So the exchange is important. And you know how I feel. I think it's more of an extended run play. And if you can get to the corner, you can turn upfield maybe a 5 or 6 yard. But then you want to get out of bounds because J.J. Nelson didn't have the biggest body. But the exchange is the most important thing. I don't know how much we're going to see the jet sweep because the idea is to get these guys in motion and when the ball is snapped to get rid of the ball less than 5 seconds. But according to research I read, the jet sweep in 2017, teams like the Patriots and Rams were using it here and there. The entire 2017 season, teams ran the sweep 174 times, including both handoff and touch passes, and gained 882 yards and 9 touchdowns on such plays. Fast forward to last season, the jet sweeps were attempted 309 times, and they had 1,883 yards, and the touchdowns went for 9-16. Now, the number one team that runs the jet sweep is the Los Angeles Rams. They ran it a whopping 48 times last season, including playoffs, average about 2.3 per game, followed by the Patriots and Chargers. They average about 6.8 yards. The NFL average is 0.7. So the Chiefs do it a lot. The Rams do it a lot. Now, I'm going to mention 5 or 6 players here that ran the jet sweeps. Robert Woods, Brandon Cooks, Cordero Patterson, Tyler Lockett, Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill averaged about 72 yards total, about 7.2. So all those guys I mentioned besides Patterson, all speed guys. I have no problem going with the bubble screen to a guy like Christian Kirk, to Andy Isabella, where once again you get the blocking on the outside. Now you're talking about a quick pass that can be a 7 to 12 yard gain. So I don't know how much we're going to see the jet sweep, but you could see it's more prevalent in the NFL from 17 to 18, and I got to think those numbers are going to go up again this year.
And it's very effective if executed properly, and that's what the Cardinals need to figure out. One, can they execute it? Because the teams that you mentioned, playoff teams, and if it's working, you keep doing it until the defense figures out a way to stop it. But you could do it with an Andy Isabella. You could do it with a Keyshawn Johnson. You can do it with different players, but certainly that elements of getting to the outside as quickly as possible, because now all of a sudden you've got guys in that wide receivers room that are so fast that it's hard for defenders to wrap up. Now you're not trying to get a touchdown every single play, but
no,
you should be able to get 5 or 6 yards and use that to try to get down the field as quickly as possible or as efficiently as possible.
Well, if that happens on first down, now you're at 2nd and 6, maybe 2nd and 5. Now that's a manageable down. Doesn't mean it's a passing down. It could be a running down. It could be 4 wide with David Johnson and basically a wide receiver. And we know how important first down is going to be in this offense. You don't want to be sitting at 3rd and 10 where teams are starting to tee off on the quarterback. A couple other guys that ran the jet sweep, Alvin Kamara, Keenan Allen, and Sammy Watkins. Once again, speed, and I think the Cardinals have a couple of those guys that can pull that off.
Now, driving into work this morning, I was listening to Cardinals Underground that Darren Urban, Paul Calvisi, and Kyle Odegaard host on a weekly basis. And again, it's a great Cardinals podcast. Go to azcardinals.com/podcast to download it, subscribe, and it'll come right to your phone every single week, along with all the other podcasts, including here on Cards Cover 2. But Darren brought up, and this is something that I didn't know because we talked about why guys chose different numbers. Well, according to Darren, Isabella chose 89, which we all thought was kind of strange, short guy, most we see these wide receivers choosing numbers in the teens. We chose 89 because of Steve Smith.
Similar size?
Both 5'9", and if the Cardinals can get half the production of a Steve Smith, and I went back to look up his numbers, 16 years, 5-time Pro Bowler, 2-time All-Pro. Of course, everyone knows him from his time with Carolina, and he finished off his career with the Ravens and now doing work for the NFL Network. But to me, and we all talk about comps or traits, you can certainly see that because of the size, but I think Isabella's a lot quicker. But the one thing that I think they both have is that hunger and that desire and the idea to prove guys right, not to prove people wrong, but to prove the Cardinals right in this case, because the Cardinals went out and got him in the second round. Smith was a third-round pick, but I can certainly see some similarities and a possibility that if you want to look for another comparison or someone that, hey, this guy reminds me of that, Isabella and Steve Smith might be a pretty good comparison.
And I'm assuming he came in the NFL with a chip on his shoulder. Obviously, you maybe think you're going to get drafted earlier. One thing I'll say about Steve Smith, more physical. That doesn't mean that Andy Isabella can't be physical, more of a finesse player with the speed. And, I don't think he's going to take a lot of big hits now. He's going to have to run that crossing route because that's going to be really prevalent in their offense where you get two wide receivers on the outside or in the slot, and they run that crossing route, and that's where you get yards after catch. But he's got every opportunity to put up big numbers for the Arizona Cardinals.
And Smith had great success on third down, specifically third and long, where you're talking about third and long, 4+ yards to move the sticks, and he became not a check down receiver, but someone that the quarterback could rely on. And I think that's what you need. You need that connection between quarterback and wide receiver. When I get the ball, who do I know is going to be able to catch the ball? And the Cardinals, for a long time, it's just always been Larry Fitzgerald. Christian Kirk is developing into that guy, but perhaps now you're adding an Isabella, maybe a Hakeem Butler, maybe a Keyshawn Jameson, maybe all of these guys can be that player that the quarterback trusts. Hey, we need to move the chains. We only need 3 or 4 yards. Just give me the ball.
Yeah, I mean, Larry's not going to play forever, so you got to try to find that guy. But no disrespect, I'm going to Larry Fitzgerald if I need a first down.
Yeah, the defense, though, is going to key on him, especially early on.
And we see teams now, because he doesn't get the separation, even though he's savvy as a wide receiver, teams bracket him now. They'll have a corner or a slot corner on him, and then they get over the top safety help. So you're right. Other guys are going to be open. They're going to find themselves in single coverage versus getting bracketed.
And that's why the offense stalled so much late last season, because when Kirk went down, there was no other guy, and you could just focus on Fitz and then
just say don't let him get the deep ball. And we know I think they're going to move him around a little bit this year. Again, I'll take my chances on the 50-50 ball. He's still productive, and he should get his 80 to 100 targets. Maybe that's equals 75 to 80 catches. Maybe 8 to 10 touchdowns, hopefully 800 to 1,000 yards.
Still to come here on this edition of Cards Cover 2, we've got Bird Gang Sound Off, but we want to remind everyone that we are broadcasting here from the Dignity Health Arizona Cardinals Training Center, and of course doing so in our Bose QC35s. Go to Bose.com for more information. And if you ever miss a show, as we come to you Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, simply download it as a podcast via Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play Music, TuneIn, and SoundCloud. Basically, any option out there, you can find us here on Cards Cover 2. And, of course, don't forget all of your favorite Cardinals podcasts can be found on azcardinals.com/podcast, including Cardinals Underground, a must listen to podcast that those three do a great job with. All right, without further ado, let's hear what the Bird Gang is sounding off on here on this Wednesday using the hashtag Cards Cover 2. Hashtag Cards Cover 2 using the number 2 to get involved in the show. Got a lot of Kyler Murray questions here, MJ. Let's begin with Twitter user M Copeland 30. wants to know, does Kyler Murray have the elusiveness to escape safeties and linebackers should a play completely break down?
Yes, obviously.
And a simple word, yes.
Well, I mean, first of all, they want him to get rid of the ball quick, but there's going to be some plays you have to allow the receivers to get open and run their routes. So if he gets to that second layer, I think it's going to be difficult for a linebacker or a safety, and that's where maybe the corners come up. But he has the ability to slide. He also has the ability to get out of bounds. I don't think that's going to be an issue for a dual-threat quarterback like Kyler Murray.
We had 2 users on Twitter kind of ask almost a similar question regarding Kyler Murray, both at MBS365 and at Chimpanzee wanted to know about those behind Murray in that quarterback's room. Brett Hundley, Charles Knopf. Do the Cardinals need to pick up a veteran QB to help mentor Kyler Murray?
They have a veteran guy. Unfortunately, he didn't have a lot of playing time in Green Bay. They had the handcuffs on him. They wouldn't let him throw the ball down the field. He's backed up Aaron Rodgers. He's backed up Russell Wilson now. Obviously, you don't want anything to happen with the number 1 quarterback, but I don't think the offense is going to change. He's going to have to learn it, and they feel comfortable with him. They made a decision to move on from Mike Glennon, so I think he's the guy, and hopefully he can learn the offense because at some point, whether it's a play, a possession, maybe a quarter, he may have to play. Hopefully not.
All right, let's see what the Bird Gang is sounding off on here via Instagram. User at Wonderboys Memes wants to know, again, about Kyler Murray. Statistically, what is a successful season for the Cardinals rookie quarterback?
Well, I mean, you'd like to see him around 250 per game, but let's just go 200 yards per game. So that's 3,600 yards or 3,200 yards. I think he can throw 20 to 25 touchdowns, maybe somewhere 11 to 14 interceptions. And I haven't even talked about his rushing yet. I think he can go over 500 yards rushing, probably maybe 4 to 6 touchdowns there. So he's a rookie. You got a rookie head coach, first time in the NFL, calling plays. So it's going to be a work in progress. But at the end of the season, I think we're going to be encouraged about Murray's upside.
Switching over to the defense, Instagram user at Jord_XN wants to know, in terms of tackles for loss, pressures, sacks, who will have the better season? Darius Philon, Rodney Gunter, or Corey Peters?
I'm going to go with Gunter. Corey Peters is more of a space eater. He's going to get double teamed a lot. I think Philon is improved throughout his career. His snap count has gone up. He's the perfect age, 27 years old. But he's going to be going against the left tackle, left guards. And I'm not saying the right guard and right tackle aren't as effective as them. So I think Rodney Gunter showed flashes last year, and I think he's a guy that can create havoc and allow guys like Chandler Jones and Terrell Suggs to make plays on the outside.
Contract year, too.
Very true. Good point.
That always factors.
He was in a contract year last year.
And had his best year.
He had his best year,
well.
and he's motivated to, he wants to be here. The Cardinals would like to extend him. Now it's just a matter of him stepping up.
Last question via Instagram. This is a fun one for you, MJ. User at J_Del Quadro wants to know, what is an NFL game day like in the press box?
The only thing I don't like is we're enclosed. So,
yes, that's true.
But when Larry catches a pass or we get a big play, you can hear the crowd. We got great seats. I actually sit a little bit different than I did previously. You got the stats there. Great food in the press box. So
there you go. That's what I was waiting for.
I like to get there early. I watch the early games where they're late, obviously, doing the post-game show. So I enjoy it. You got to dress up. Can't look like a slob. So we usually all wearing suits.
Yes. Got to dress the part.
Yeah, I don't mind. I mean, you look good, you feel good, Grialou. Come on.
A day in the life of Mike Jurecki
on
an NFL Sunday.
Now, you're a little bit more busy than me. You get there much earlier than I do. What's your day like?
Well, there's a pregame show and then another pregame show, and then, you get ready for the inactives and then with the on-field hits beforehand on Facebook.
Now,
very busy.
You do halftime stuff, too?
Halftime, yeah.
Scoreboard?
Yep. Ohm's got to be working all over the place on Sundays.
He's got to make sure he uses us, right?
He took over for me. We were at Candlestick Park one time, and I knew it was the beginning of the end for me when I was doing the scoreboards.
Yeah.
I put the sheet down, my cheat sheet where I wrote down all the scores and stats, and I put my hands in my pocket. Bad mistake in the windiest place. In the middle of reading the scores, that they got sucked out of the window.
Oh, you gave somebody.
And I'm like, and in Cincinnati, the Bengals hold a 7-3 lead against the
Well, at least
Dolphins. And I said, we'll be back after this with the rest of the scores. It was like the second score I read.
Well, somebody got the update. It was just sitting in the stands.
Yeah, down below.
Yeah, everyone went with their fantasy
Can you imagine you're just sitting there and all of a sudden scores drop from the sky?
He's like, I got this guy on my fantasy team. I'm doing well.
I remember Bill Lewis, or maybe it was Glenn Parker. Someone was in the booth, and they were laughing so hard because I was like, all right, well, we'll be back after this, and I'll try to get some scores.
Yeah, we got 15 other games to announce.
Appreciate the Bird Gang sounding off here on this Wednesday using the hashtag CardsCover2, hashtag CardsCover2, using the number 2 to get involved in the show. The one thing, though, you do realize doing halftime scoreboard and how quick halftime goes by. And you, on Saturdays, with college football, you've got 20 minutes, sometimes longer. In the NFL, that's a quick 12 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes you wonder, you go inside, get hydrated, maybe a couple of words from your position coach or head coach, and you're back out for warm-ups. You're like, did we even get a break?
Well, early in the season, you got 9 early games. So you got a lot of updating to do. And then if it's halftime of our game, then you got to update the afternoon game. So obviously, you got probably 12 to 13 games before the bye week. So that's a lot of updating.
Here's a little knowledge you can use at parties. Mike will remember this. Back in the day at Sun Devil Stadium, the locker rooms were so far away from the field that it was the one city where they extended the halftime by 1 minute. So all games at Sun Devil Stadium were 13-minute halftime.
Yeah.
However, you see it every now and again. Like if a team has a Ring of Honor induction somewhere, they'll add a minute to the halftime. But for the most part, it is 12 minutes, and it does fly by. But at Sun Devil Stadium, we had that extra minute to get those extra scores in.
And I will say this, I'll give credit to the officiating crew. They make sure both teams are completely off the field, coaches, everyone, before they signal that clock to wind down.
Oh, they wait for the last guy to leave?
They wait.
That's smart.
They don't do it early.
Yeah, because, I know in college, Todd Graham, he would huddle up the guys before halftime. I'm like, get them in the locker room.
Just
now
go.
You got 20 minutes. So, yeah, it's different. But, a lot of times, maybe about the 8-minute mark, maybe 9-minute mark, you do see the special teams guys come out, whether it's punters, kickers, long snappers, just because the next time they're called upon, unless you're kicking off for that half, you got to be ready. And so you do see those guys come out a little bit earlier.
The other fun part about Sun Devil Stadium was we used to do traffic reports. I don't know if you guys remember, his name was Steve Clausen.
Yeah.
He used to do it, and we used to joke around that it was called Head Out the Window Traffic on the Cardinals radio network, because Sun Devil Stadium is probably the highest point in the East Valley. Maybe that Bank of America building over there
in
Mesa.
Yeah.
That might be taller, but he literally would stick his head out the window. He's like, oh, let's take a look at traffic in Scottsdale. You can see the cars backed up. Like he
202 looks good.
He didn't need a news bureau. He just stuck his head out.
That was the beauty of being as high as we were in the press box.
Yeah. So glad for State Farm Stadium, by the way.
And the air conditioning and the food, the hospitality. Plus, it's just a great venue, and we don't need to.
Sight lines are great.
Yeah, and we don't need to go through all the great games, or whether it's college or pro, or even the Super Bowls. So yeah, I mean that stadium has hosted a lot of good events, and the Boise State Statue of Liberty play, and then obviously some of those college games. But yeah, that's turned out to be a great venue, not only for the Cardinals, but in concerts and college football, and they have like monster trucks there, graduations, job fairs. So it's not just 20 weeks a year; it's getting utilized, and they've done a really good job upgrading the facility, including the Wi-Fi. The last couple of years, the Wi-Fi, because we know everyone's posting on Instagram, Facebook, Facebook Live. Fantasy football, definitely. So they've definitely, and they've added more, when it comes to the club seats and I would say
different amenities.
It's almost like you're at a nightclub when you're watching the game on TV, and you can go sit in your suite. So I recommend, if you haven't been to the stadium, whether it's for one of those events I mentioned, make sure you go to azcardinals.com/tickets.
Absolutely. September 8th against the Detroit Lions,
Bring it
week
on.
1 of the 2019 season. And with that will put a wrap here on this edition of Cards Cover 2. Special thanks to those behind the scenes: Tim Delaney, Jim Alejandro, Devin Henry, Jackson Sipes. That's Mike Jurecki. I'm Craig Grialou. We'll talk to you again on Friday here on Cards Cover 2.